When a woman walks away, she often believes she is stepping into something better. She believes that distance will free her, that the breakup will lighten her emotional load, that life without you will be simpler, easier, or more exciting. In the moment, she tells herself she is making the right choice. She convinces her heart that she is strong enough, that she is done, that she no longer needs what you brought into her life. But the truth always arrives later, never in the heat of the breakup. The truth begins when the noise of the emotional reaction fades and reality begins to settle in. Because in the beginning, she may feel relief. She may feel empowered. She may feel as if she made a mature choice, but over time, something begins to shift. She starts noticing the silence. Not just the silence of her phone, but the silence inside her daily routine. That silence becomes a reminder of the presence that once filled her world. Your voice is no longer there. Your attention is no longer offered. The person she was used to talking about her frustrations, her bad days, her victories, her thoughts is no longer listening. That emptiness begins to echo. At first, she may try to distract herself. She might go out more, scroll social media more, surround herself with people, or even act unbothered. But no distraction lasts forever because eventually life calms down, and in that calm space, she realizes how different things feel without you. People don't realize how much someone's presence matters until it is no longer available. She begins to replay the small things, your voice, your consistency, your emotional support, your presence when she needed someone. And the longer you remain absent, the louder that realization becomes. Your absence will start teaching her more than your presence ever did. When you were there, she took certain things for granted. She didn't always notice the emotional stability you gave her. She didn't always value the way you showed up, even when she didn't. She didn't realize how comforting it was just to know that you were one call away. She only realizes it now because she doesn't have it anymore. People grow comfortable with what is consistent and they rarely appreciate consistency until they face inconsistency. Without you, the world becomes unpredictable. Conversations lack depth. New interactions lack the history and understanding she had with you. New opportunities lack the emotional familiarity she once relied on. And when the comparison begins, it often isn't favorable for the world outside. She also begins noticing another thing: you are not reacting, you are not chasing, you are not breaking down begging or trying to convince her to come back. Most men crumble under rejection. Most men panic when a woman leaves. But when you remain calm, centered, and occupied with your life, she suddenly realizes this breakup meant more to her than it appears to mean to you. And that is where the emotional shift begins. Instead of seeing herself as the one in control, she starts feeling like she is losing something. Not the relationship, but the connection to a man who doesn't fall apart when abandoned. That is a powerful psychological shift because a man who has emotional composure becomes more valuable in her eyes. He becomes rare, and rarity is always desired again. As time passes, she begins thinking less about why she left and more about what she walked away from. That is how regret enters. That is how reflection begins. That is how a woman who once felt confident about leaving starts to feel uncertain, then nostalgic, then anxious. And as that emotional process unfolds quietly inside her, your absence becomes the pressure that makes the truth surface. After the initial shock fades and she starts to feel the quiet of your absence, something else begins to happen. She starts comparing everything in her life to what she had with you. This comparison isn't immediate, it unfolds gradually and often against her will. No woman wants to admit she made the wrong choice, especially if she walked away with confidence. But the mind doesn't wait for pride. Reality comes in its own time when she meets new men, talks to new people, or tries to explore what life is like without you. She begins to see the differences clearly. She starts noticing how other men communicate, how they show affection, how they handle stress, how they listen, or how they fail to. And every time someone falls short, she remembers that you didn't. Even the small things become reminders. She may compare how quickly others respond versus how consistently you were always available. She might notice how new conversations feel shallow, while with you, everything felt natural and deep. She might realize that not everyone has patience, understanding, self control, emotional intelligence, or loyalty, and slowly comparison becomes uncomfortable. The new people she interacts with begin to reveal what she had but didn't value. Women don't miss the man, they miss the difference between that man and everyone else. And when that difference becomes obvious, Regret begins to grow like a seed she tries to ignore but can't escape. This comparison also happens in her emotional state. She starts remembering how she felt when she was with you. Maybe she felt supported, safe, admired, or seen. Maybe you brought stability into her life. Maybe you made her feel like someone understood her without her needing to explain everything. Maybe you were the grounding force in her chaotic days. Humans don't forget how someone made them feel. They might forget details, but the emotional imprint stays. And when her current situation doesn't give her anything close to those feelings, her brain naturally goes backward to re-evaluate what she walked away from. Even if she is pretending to enjoy her newfound freedom, the truth sits in the quiet moments, late at night, early in the morning, driving alone, scrolling social media. Those are the spaces where comparison hits the hardest. When she checks your profile and sees you're not broken or chasing, she feels two things: a loss of control and a loss of significance. When she sees you focused on your goals, improving, leveling up, not complaining, not begging, and not posting sad or desperate content, she realizes she may have lost someone strong. That realization hurts far more than the breakup itself, because nothing stings more than realizing the person you walked away from is doing better without you. She also begins to compare who she was with you to who she is now. Maybe she liked the version of herself who was softer, happier, more feminine, or more stable. Maybe she felt better when she had someone who believed in her. When she realizes her life hasn't improved the way she imagined, the story she told herself starts to fall apart. That is when doubts turn into silent emotional pressure. She may not talk about it, she may not text you, she may not show anyone, but she starts wondering if leaving was a mistake. Over time, these internal comparisons become too strong to ignore. She may try to distract herself, reassure herself, or tell herself it's just temporary, but the truth remains: your absence has changed how she views everything. And that shift is what makes her start thinking about coming back, not out of loneliness, but out of the realization that she underestimated your worth. As more time passes without your presence, her emotions begin to shift, and she starts feeling the growing emptiness that your silence has created. In the beginning, she might have felt confident, empowered, or relieved, convincing herself that moving on was the right decision. She may have believed she could replace you easily, find someone better, or step into a more exciting phase of life. But when the initial emotional high fades and the reality of day to day life sets in, she begins feeling a void she didn't expect. This void has nothing to do with dependency. It's the result of losing a man who brought emotional value into her world. Human beings are wired to attach emotionally, especially when a relationship had depth, history, consistency, and emotional investment. So when she suddenly no longer had someone who understood her, listened to her, supported her dreams, grounded her when she spiraled, and saw her value, it begins to feel like something meaningful has been ripped away. She may not admit this to friends, family, or even to herself, but the emotional gap begins to widen with each passing day. And the more she tries to distract herself, the more reminders she finds of what she walked away from. This emotional emptiness grows strongest during the quiet moments, the times when no one is around to watch her put on a brave face. It's easy to appear unbothered on social media, easy to post smiling pictures, travel photos, party nights, or motivational quotes. But deep down, those external actions often become attempts to convince herself she is okay rather than proof that she actually is. When she's lying in bed at night staring at the ceiling, when she's sitting in her car thinking about life, when she sees a memory pop up in her phone, when she hears a song that brings back moments with you, that emotional gap becomes impossible to ignore. What makes this experience even more powerful is your silence. If you were chasing her, texting her, trying to win her back, apologizing, or begging for closure, she would continue believing she made the right decision. She would feel secure in thinking, he's still there if I want him later. But when your silence remains consistent, she starts to feel the emotional weight of losing someone who is no longer waiting. Your silence forces her to see that her actions had consequences. Suddenly, the control she thought she had slips away, and now she begins to fear something she didn't expect. What if you really moved on? That fear intensifies everything she feels. She begins replaying old moments in her mind, your conversations, your laughter, the way you held her, the comfort of having someone she trusted. She starts remembering the mornings you greeted her with affection, the late night talks, the advice you gave, the way you made her feel chosen. these memories become emotional triggers. The more she remembers, the more she realizes what she doesn't have anymore. Emotional emptiness doesn't just affect her heart, it affects her behavior. She may start checking your social media more often, scrolling through your photos, replaying past messages, or asking mutual friends how you are. She may start posting indirectly in hopes of getting your attention. She might even begin dating others simply to distract herself. But every new conversation, every date, every interaction becomes a mirror that reflects what she lost. What she once took for granted now becomes something she misses deeply. And as the emotional emptiness grows louder, she begins to question her decision. Her pride starts to crack, and regret starts taking root, not because you are gone, but because your absence has revealed the emotional space only you were filling. When she begins to fear the emotional absence created by your silence, something deeper takes place inside her. She starts comparing every new interaction, experience, and man she meets to you. This comparison is not a conscious decision at first. It happens naturally because when a woman has shared time, connection, and emotional history with a man, her brain stores those experiences as reference points. You become a standard, a measurement, a benchmark. And when she steps out into a world without you, she realizes something she couldn't see before. Not every man gives what you gave. Not every man understands her the way you did. And not everyone has the emotional depth, presence, or masculine grounding that she once took for granted. In the beginning, she may have expected that life would feel refreshing or exciting. She might have believed she was moving forward into something better, or simply believed she would find someone equal or superior. She may have even convinced herself that men are easily replaceable and that connection is something she could recreate without effort. But the reality is far different. The more she interacts with others, the more she recognizes the differences, both subtle and overwhelming. She notices how other men lack the patience, the maturity, the understanding, or the calm that you carried naturally. She begins to see how rare consistency actually is, how uncommon emotional intelligence is, and how few people truly listen with the intention of understanding rather than responding. This is when comparison becomes painful because she begins realizing that what she had with you is not just difficult to replace, it may not be replaceable at all. She starts noticing that the jokes don't land the same, the conversations don't flow the same, the emotional bond isn't forming the same way. Even the small details, the way you remembered what she loved, the way you supported her dreams, the way you could calm her storms, become things she regrets letting go of. Every new connection becomes a silent test. Every man she talks to is subconsciously competing with memories of you. And the deeper she feels this gap, the more she realizes the difference between temporary excitement and long term emotional fulfillment. The worst part for her is that comparison is not something she can admit out loud. Pride won't let her say, I miss him, or he was better, or I didn't know what I had. So she lives in internal conflict, pretending to move on while privately wondering if she made one of the biggest mistakes of her life. She may start seeing you differently than she did at the time of the breakup. Instead of focusing on flaws or frustrations, she now remembers the good, the comfort, the security, the love, the growth, and the loyalty you provided. It's human nature when something is gone, its true value becomes visible. And this realization stings deeply because your silence has created a new narrative, one where she no longer feels certain that you are still waiting, hoping, or available. If she enters new dating experiences, the comparisons intensify even more. She may start thinking, he's nice, but he doesn't make me feel the way I used to feel, or this feels forced, or even, I didn't realize how rare loyalty and consistency truly are. Every flaw she sees in someone new reflects a strength you possessed, and suddenly you no longer look ordinary. You begin to look exceptional. This leads to one powerful psychological shift: admiration returns. As she compares others to you and repeatedly finds them lacking, her respect for you increases. She begins to see that what she once dismissed now holds more weight and meaning than she understood. And when respect grows, desire follows. When desire grows, regret becomes unavoidable. And when regret takes hold, her pride begins to weaken because the truth becomes undeniable. Losing you cost her more than she ever expected. As time passes and your silence continues, something powerful begins to happen, not just in her world, but in yours. You start growing in ways she never expected. When a man pulls away from a breakup with dignity, emotional discipline, and the willingness to rebuild himself instead of chasing someone who walked away, that transformation becomes undeniable. At first, she may have believed you would sit still, wait, crumble, or become desperate the moment she distanced herself. She expected that her absence would freeze your life in place. But instead of folding, you chose to evolve. You chose to become stronger, calmer, more focused, and more confident. While she was busy trying to prove she didn't need you, you were proving to yourself that you didn't need external validation to grow. This is where the shift begins because the most attractive and magnetic response to loss is growth, not petty reactions, not begging, not seeking attention, but upgrading your mindset, your purpose, your life. When you begin focusing on your mission, improving your finances, strengthening your emotional boundaries, sharpening your goals, and nurturing your peace, you start radiating a new kind of energy, an energy she didn't expect. Suddenly, you're not the man who was left behind. You are the man who moved forward, used the pain as fuel, and built something stronger from it. And that transformation speaks louder than any text message or argument ever could. Women are emotional creatures, deeply wired to respond to the energy a man carries. When your energy becomes grounded, calm, disciplined, and forward moving, she feels it even in your silence. She notices that you're no longer attached, no longer emotionally dependent, no longer reacting to her distance. That shift alone triggers something very powerful inside her. It tells her that she no longer has control. It tells her that you are no longer waiting. It tells her that you no longer see her as the center of your life. And nothing makes a woman reevaluate her decisions faster than realizing the man she assumed would always be there is now focused on himself and doing better without her. While you are rebuilding, she is reflecting. She may scroll through your social media, check your profile, ask mutual friends about you, or simply sit in silence wondering why she no longer feels your emotional presence. And the more she sees you leveling up, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, professionally, or socially, the more she begins to question her own choice. This is where regret grows because women often expect to upgrade after leaving. They rarely expect him to be the one who becomes the best version of himself. But your growth becomes a mirror, and suddenly she has to confront the uncomfortable truthy. She walked away from a man who didn't collapse, he evolved. Your transformation makes her remember the man she originally fell for. It reminds her of the qualities she was drawn to: the ambition, the strength, the stability, the leadership, the inner drive. But now those qualities have doubled. Now you're better, wiser, stronger, more mature, and more focused. And the contrast between who you were and who you've become makes her feel the loss on a deeper level. Because not only is she missing the man she once had, she is also missing the man he turned into. But here's the real twist: your growth is no longer about impressing her, it's about honoring yourself. And that shift in intention is what makes it irresistible. The moment your life stops revolving around her is the moment she feels the gravitational pull back toward you. That is the power of silence mixed with self improvement. When the man she left behind becomes a man she can no longer reach easily, that is when she starts wanting him the most. As the silence stretches on and she realizes that you have remained grounded, disciplined, and emotionally detached, a new fear begins to form in her mind. The fear that she has truly lost you. At first, ignoring you or walking away gave her a sense of power. She believed that distance meant control. She expected you to chase, to panic, to fight for attention, or to emotionally collapse. But when none of those reactions come, when you continue living your life with focus and self respect, the emotional power shifts completely. Suddenly, she is no longer in control, you are, and the absence of your chase sends a message stronger than words ever could. You have accepted what happened and you're moving forward with or without her. This realization begins subtly. Maybe she looks at her phone and notices no new notifications from you. Maybe she checks social media and sees that you are not reacting to anything she posts. Maybe she hears from mutual friends that you've become calmer, more disciplined, more focused, or maybe she simply sits alone at night and feels a space where your presence used to be. That space, once taken for granted, now becomes a reminder of what she lost. And the human mind hates the idea of losing something once possessed, especially when that loss is self inflicted. Women often expect closure to be dramatic, emotional, or vocal. But when a man becomes silent, it is unsettling. She realizes that silence is not weakness, silence is acceptance. Silence is emotional graduation. Silence means you are no longer seeking validation, approval, or attention from someone who walked away. And this realization causes her to feel something she never anticipated, the fear that she is no longer important in your story. This fear intensifies when she imagines another woman benefiting from the improved version of you. She starts thinking, what if someone else gets the man he is now? That idea alone can be enough to trigger panic, because now she is not just losing who you were, she could be losing who you became after the breakup. That is a different kind of pain entirely. It is one thing to lose someone. It is another thing to realize you lost someone who became a better man without you. Eventually, this emotional storm leads her to a difficult inner confrontation. She starts replaying past moments, questioning whether she reacted emotionally instead of logically, whether she took you for granted, whether she gave up too quickly, or whether pride mattered more than communication. And when a woman begins questioning her own decisions, regret begins to form at a deep emotional level. This is also when she starts fearing that reconnecting with you may no longer be an option. She might wonder if reaching out will make her look weak. She might fear rejection. She might think, what if he doesn't want me anymore? That fear can delay her return, even when she wants to come back badly. And the longer the silence continues, the more she feels that the power she once held is slipping out of her hands. What makes this phase even more intense is that you are not doing anything manipulative. You are not trying to punish her, make her regret. You are simply choosing yourself. You are focusing on your growth, your mission, your peace, your future. That kind of emotional independence is rare. And because it is rare, it is valuable. She begins to realize that a man who can walk away from feelings, not out of bitterness, but out of strength, is a man of high value. And high value men are not easily replaced. Her fear now becomes a reflection of her respect, because the stronger and more centered you become, the more she recognizes that you are the type of man a woman does not want to lose permanently. The man who is calm in chaos, stable in silence, solid in absence, that is the man she finally understands carries real power.